Any questions until any questions until now? Any classes? Any topic that you want to repeat? Okay. Yeah. So today we are going to discussing about the graphs. In SAS, we do have the multiple SAS graphical processors. So you can produce what kind of graph you want. So it produces all kind of graphs and that you can generate it like a bar chart, like pie chart, donut chart, star chart, whatever the chart you want, whatever the graphical you want it, like line chart. Okay, all the different possible graphs that you can able to generate it through SAS. Okay, SAS graph is a separate module. It's not comes under the base SAS. So, so any company if they want to see the generate any graph, they need to you purchase a separate module that's called a SAS graphs. Okay, so you cannot like without you, it's not mixing with the existing any other software, so you have to purchase a new one. So producing the bar and pie charts. So bar or pie charts can be used to graphically display the distribution of the variable values. So first we are going to discussing about bar and pie charts. Okay, so how we can generate this bar and pie charts. So this bar chart or pie chart can be used to distribute the variables values, average value of the variable on the different categories, total value of the variable in different categories. So these are the things majorly we used. So what are the specification of the G chart? So chart and G chart. So if you remember that, so we have two different processors in the base SAS. That is a chart processor and plot processor. So if you use the chart processor without graphical representation, you can able to draw the graph. But if you want to see the graphical representation, we use the G chart. So both chart and G chart and both are same. Only the appearance of the graph will be different if you use the prog G chart. So let's see that examples. Let's see if I can able to do that. So to identify, you need to check it if you have or not. By running this particular set IN80 processor, you'll get to know that what are the different licenses that you have. If you can able to generate the graphs or not. See, I have the graphs, so then I can able to write the graph, I can able to generate the graphs. If you don't have the license for the graph, you cannot able to generate it. Okay. So you can see separate module we have SAS graph. So this is a base SAS and we have separate module called SAS graph. So under the graphs, we have different processor and statements. So first we'll go to the all processors. So we do have these many different SAS graphical processors. So let's go to the prog G chart. So let's look over the data. Do we have the data here? Yep. So we have 6 values. Now what are the values we have? Each department wise site. Department site quarterly sales. Each department, what is the quarterly site, which site, and what are the quarter, which quarter, what is the, how much sales are there. Now let's draw the graph for these particular things. So I want to see each department wise total this kind of bar chart. It's a block chart of sum. For that you need to use a prog G chart simply. So you're generating the block chart. So for the site variable, what is the site, Sydney, and what value we are going to draw in each block, sales amount. Just run this. You can see here. Each site, just putting it, drawing the sales amount here. So in Atlanta, this much sales. This is called as a block chart of sum that you can see here. Nothing but sum of the sales for each site wise. Just producing the graph. So similarly, we do have multiple other. So like we can different type of graphs also here. So we can see grouping and subgrouping block chart. So means like subgrouping the data within the block chart like this. Sydney and Atlanta. Within that, I want to see all the different parts and like this. Each block and each quarter wise sales. So we are categorizing that, right? So for that, just writing the block sides, the sum of sales only. But you want to see the mean, the midpoint of Sydney and Atlanta group, each department wise, subgroup and quarter wise. So simply like here the sales, you are going to use group equal to department, each department wise, and again in the each is a department a subgroup category, the subgroup. So let's run this. See quarter one and quarter four because the data is very less. Okay, so let's see this. Yeah, we need to add more values. Each department wise parts in Atlanta, Paris, and Sydney. See, within Atlanta, 3 different quarters we have. First quarter data, second quarter, and third quarter. We don't have the fourth quarter. But in repairs in Paris, we don't see any data. In Paris, we don't have any department, repairs department. So this kind of graph that if you want to generate, you have to use block chart. Block, PLOC, block chart. This we call as a block chart. So means each department and each within the department subgroup category is quarter wise. So that's what here. Is this clear? Any questions in these graphs? I'm going to do. Yes. So the thing is like a couple of procedures we have to use quit, couple of things we have to write a run statement. So some procedures we need to use a run, but some procedures quit. Quit means means whenever you're running a chart, it's still running, it's showing. But if you use a quit statement, that particular procedure will be used. So you have to remember this. Even if you're running, if you mention a quit, also no problem. But if you don't specify the quit, some couple of procedures like proc SQL, you have to specify the quit. Otherwise, it will show you running. It doesn't end with. So if you better practice with quit all the step, then good. The next one is like a bar chart. This bar chart we call as a horizontal bar chart. It's bar. It's vertical bar. So vertical or horizontal. So this is a vertical bar chart, both. So whenever you draw the graphs in the horizontal bar chart, just we need to use sales and the site-wise total sales. Similarly, vertical bar chart. See here, this is looks like a 3D. This is only simple bar chart, but if here it's a 3D chart, 3 dimension. X-axis, Y-axis, and Z-axis. Let's see this simple. Horizontal bar chart. So you can also use a 3D here also. It's a vertical bar. Okay. So with the prog G chart, we can see this. But yeah. So I'm removing the G, just chart. See, if you don't use a graphical, it will be displayed in the output form, output file. Like the graph will be like this. So this is how the graph will look like if you don't use a graphical. Just use a chart processor. You will get the report, but you will get the graph. It will be displayed like this. Yeah, 1 minute. Okay. Yep. So like what kind of different have the different kind of graphs that you can do in the prog G chart means like this. See, block chart, horizontal, vertical, and horizontal 3D, vertical 3D, and pie chart, star chart, donut. So if you want to see the pie chart, see the same amount, just use the pie. This is a donut chart, so donut site sales. But if you know once you know the syntax, you can generate any graph. Not only this one, like you can see donut. So you can also use instead of donut pie chart. Pie chart. Star chart. So these are the different kind of graph that you can able to generate with the prog G chart. 3D and star chart. So all the different type of charts that you can able to generate. So the next one is G plot. So these are all we don't mostly we don't use all the things. Majorly the pie chart, bar chart, these can be used regularly. So remaining also it's used. It's depending upon the situation. Like this is a G map is there. So it means it's a map related to the India countries, different countries map data. See here how we are going to use this. To use the G map, you need to use your maps datasets. These maps datasets are available in your SAS here in this location. SAS. If you go to the Area Explorer tab, we do see there are 4 different libraries. This is I created library, but these are the 4 different libraries that we have it. So under this, we have the maps library. In the maps library, you will have all the information about all the countries' information. It also gives the complete information like how much population, what is the capital city, what is the number, what is the multiple, what is the different cities, what is the country code, all the latitude, longitude information, everything we will have in this particular data sets for all the countries. If you go to the Asia, or if you go to the, say if you go to the Asia, you can see all the different countries number 95, county number, segment, latitude and longitude information. So in US, also America. So okay. So if you look at here, description, properties, see here. So this particular country code is related to this particular Afghanistan, Bahrain. So name of the country. First point in Asia dataset like this. So ID 10 from in this particular maps.asia dataset, you can see this kind of information. See, derived from CA 2000 World FI modified October like this. If you have the latest software, then these datasets also updated automatically. So it means these will be updated live, so you don't need to worry about the information. That will be accurate, like latest kind of information that there you can see when it's created, when it's updated. So these data sets will be majorly used to create the graphs of particular related countries information if you want to populate. Let's see the example here. Here I want to see the population in Asia's information. For that we have to use Asia map. See, but using Asia map, if we know the population, that population data set will be used in demographic information. We have the population, and if you want to draw only particular continent, so 95. So ID block chart. We are generating the block chart in Asia map about their populations in Asia. See, so this particular maps will tell you that what kind of map. So this is about this much population. So this map, if you want it, you have to use a maps data set. This one. Because since it's a Gmap project, it required data associated to the maps. So this particular graphs only used whenever you want to draw the maps in particular country or particular continent or what kind of things. So this G options procedure will tell you that all the list of options in the particular graph related procedures. And G plot. So the G plot procedure means it's using the plot the data in a graph. Like what kind of values do you want to see? Let's see this. So simple bubble chart. So if the bubble is big, the size of the value is big. If the bubble is small, the size of the value is small. See here in this particular, this is a size. Here it's size. In mechanic, this is a size. So this much only. This number of persons are less. Salaries and their number of eligible engineers. So in mechanical, you can see these many engineers, these many dollars. So just dropping those values, plotting. See, bubble dollars into engineer equal to number. Dollars and number of engineers equal to number. So we want to see the dollars in income, and the populating is in the numbers. So this is Indian is, and these are dollars, and whatever the plotting that you are doing is a salary, this number. So this is how we can use it. So labeling size of the plot bubbles. You want to see the label information. So just you want to see that B label. If you use a label B label, then automatically their values will be shown in the graph. Each bubble, how it's representing that one. See? So this axis 1 and axis 2 are the statements, graphical statements. So what it will tell you that you can define how each and every axis that you want it in the graph. Like what when you say axis 1, it means x-axis you are defining, or y-axis you are defining. What how you are I want to see the axis. If you do axis 2, that one. So label equal to none, offset equal to 5 comma 5, order equal to 0 to 40,000 by 1000. It means this axis value, the values will be plotted like 0 to 40,000, and each interval is 10,000. So this is how it like so 0, 10,000, 20,000, 40,000, like this particular interval between each plotting value that will show here. So once you define this axis 1, axis 2, that can be used. So if you want to see horizontal axis, which axis you want, you can specify either axis 1 or axis 2 with what value. Then you can define it. Similarly, minor axis, like so this particular thing is similarly footnote, title, and this title and footnote, like how you want the graph level, what is the title and what is a footnote. So right, another vertical axis that you're going to add. It means another axis you have to create. See, so other bubble to creating another axis. So plotting two variables. Plot height and weight only. Just if you want to see the height and weight, just use it. And if you want to see a simple one, they can use it. But if you want to see all the different calculations, like horizontal axis, how you want to 40 to 150 by 10, vertical axis, horizontal region. So this is how you can see this. So out of all these graphs, you need to just think which graph majorly which shoot for you in the graphical representative, that you have to define it. So for radar chart, so because these charts we not used it, but yeah, majorly this G chart, G plot, and G map, these will be used it. So pie chart, vertical bar, vertical chart. So somewhere just saw these options and plot procedure. Yeah. So this is about the graphs. So just you can go through that other more graphs and let me know if any questions, and I can help you on that. But now these are the two major graphs. If you can understand them, remaining will be easy. So these will be used in real day-to-day life required. Yeah. So the next we are going to the different other topic that's called as macros. So SQL. No. Okay. So SQL, how we are going to use a SQL in SAS. So if you know if you know these SQL queries, whatever you are learning now, today or tomorrow, this SQL can be used in any database. That if you learn this SQL, whenever you are going to retrieve any database, the same SQL you can write it and you can pull the data. So wherever you want to write any SQL means you have to write these things only. Just slight difference between the databases and syntaxes. But most of the case, all the database, all the scenarios, whenever you're fetching any data from any database, you have to write the same SQL. So how we are going to use the SQL in SAS, that we are going to discuss now. So whenever you're doing the SQL, like how the terminology will be used compared to SAS dataset, normal file, and SQL. So whenever you're doing any simple data processing, we call it a file and row or record and field. Whenever you say field means column name. Whenever it's a record means row. Right? Similarly, whenever you say file means table. So means as called as data set, observations and variables. So these are terminology just used, but it's depending upon if you're using inside SQL level, you can use the terminologies. If you're using the SAS, even though if you can just say data set also, you can use this table also. So this is how the terminology we called as. So why we use the SQL? So what are the different features that you can use by using SQL? You get it. So you can use the SQL process to retrieve the data and manipulate the and SAS tables. So if you have the data, if you have the table, if you have the data set, if you want to modify it or if you want to retrieve some information from the data set, when some information, I think what suppose if your data set is there, in the data set you have 100 columns. So I need out of 100 columns, I just need only 5 columns and 100 rows. I don't need complete data. To see the sample data and what are the columns that you needed. So those kind of information, you can do that with the SQL queries. It means you can read specific number of rows and specific columns and some part of the data. If you want to retrieve it from the database, you can also use the SAS and you can also use the data step. SAS with SQL also you can do the same thing. Okay, and if you want to add, if you want to modify any data values in a table or in a data set, if anything you want to modify with the table, you have to use it. So if you want to add, modify, or drop columns in a table, so it means you can modify the data, you can modify the columns, and you can create the new tables from the existing data set. And you can also join the data. You can also use join multiple tables. If you want to join multiple tables, you can use it, whether or not they can contain with same name. So how SQL is unique? So like compared to another things, how it's unique? Because proc SQL. So whenever you say SQL means in SAS we call it as proc SQL. It means it's considered a separate procedure only. It's not like in its separate topic, but we can consider separate SQL. So the proc SQL differ from most of the other SAS procedures in several ways. Like compared to on other SAS procedures, proc SQL is some little bit different compared to other procedures. Because unlike the proc statement, many statements in proc SQL are composed like the clauses, like select clause, where clause, from clause, like all the different clauses that we have, we can use it. And whenever you are using the proc SQL, you don't need to use a proc print. It means by default, whenever you use a proc SQL, then automatically the data will be printed in the output file. If you don't want it, you can suppress it. But if you want it, you don't need just use automatically display the data. And if you want to sort the data, you don't require to use a proc sort procedure. So you just need to use order by class in the SQL. So automatically the data will be sorted. And in SQL, you don't need to use a run statement. You have to use a quit statement. So use quit statement to terminate the proc SQL. So now let's go to the one by one how you are going to create the table and how you are going to insert the data, how you are going to updating and deleting, all the modifying, all things that we are going to discussing one by one. Okay. So to create an empty table by defining the columns, like so you have the data. So if you want to create a table, so to create table nothing but so if you, whenever you are creating a table, nothing but a table consists of rows and columns, right? So to see the data in that particular table, you need the different column names. If you don't have the column names, you cannot see anything. Means each and every value is represented in a particular column, some name of the particular column. So like means first you have to define those columns. So to create the table first, you need to define those columns, right? So whenever you define the column, you have to mention what kind of data is that one that you are going to expecting or you are going to reading. So what kind of data in other it's a data is it a character data or numerical data? Okay. So once you define its character or numerical, then you have to define how much length that you are going to expect. Okay. So it's create a table, work dot discount. So destination, begin date, end date, discount. So let's see this how you're defining. Prox equal. You have to write the prox equal. Then what you are going to do, you are creating the one table. Table. So when you create the table, you have to give the name of the table. Right, so you have to give the name of the table. After that, you have to define each and every column, like called as student. You are creating one table, and within the table, how you are going to specify student ID. I'm expecting this as a number. Student name, character. So when you specify the character, you have to specify how much I'm expecting the length, the maximum length. The student is like this. And marks. It's a number. That's it. So I'm going to use only 3 columns and then run it. So you have to use a quit statement. Whenever you're creating the table with the columns, you have to open the bracket and close the bracket and run it. Within the brackets, you have to specify each and every column. See, it's created student. See, student has been created, but it doesn't have contain any data. Just created the structure. Let's go to the column names. See, all the 3 different columns that you defined, those will be created here. You don't see any data, right? So just created the table with a structure. So like this, you can create any table, anything, but it's defined like this. So this is but directly you are giving the column names and length and everything. So like there is like you can also create another way. You can also create a table by copying the existing table structure. Whenever you say structure means column name, those kind of information only. So whenever you say structure or whenever you say layout, it means whenever you use these words, it means it's only taking the column names only. You're not going to take the data. So to take, so if you suppose if you already have the data set, now I want to create a new table with only that particular structure. So then use a like. So I'm creating the class. So I'm taking from existing data set like dot class. So it's created 0 rows and 5 columns. See, it doesn't have any data, but it created a structure. So all the column names that you have there in the existing table, that names you can give it without having any data. So this is another way you can create the table. So now if you already have the data, then if along with the structure, if you want to create the table along with the data, if you want to create the table, you have to use as create table name as and select those column names from the particular table. Yeah, but these will come in the coming classes. I will let you do that. So the next one is you have created the table. I created the dummy table with the only structure, means only the column names. Now, if you want to create another table, you can use the like statement as keyword or give the different name. Now you want to insert the data to the particular table. It means you are inserting some data to those tables. How you are going to use the set statement. It is one thing, and by using the insert in the insert statement, you can use a set like, let's see this here. So insert into student. So what you are going to inserting? What values are set? Student ID equal to 100. Student name. So whenever you are giving the name, you have to give the quotes. Next one is marks. That's it. When you run it, then the record will be inserted. Whatever. Okay, you have to use a comma. See, one row was inserted to this table. Now go back to the table and see that. So this is how we can insert the data to the empty table. Is it clear? Okay. So this is how you are going to create the table and inserting the data. This is one method by using the set statement. Okay. So there are other methods are there. We use insert into discount and value statement. You can also use values class to insert a value for all or only some of the columns into the table. So just use the set statement, set option here. Here we can use a values class, set class and values class. To table, insert the table, use the values. So whenever you specify the table, you have to, if you specify the column names like this, you can also specify the column names and then in values, right? Values. Then whatever the order that you have, like 101, like this. Similarly, you can write n number of value statements. You can write it. So once you are done, just use the semicolon and run it. See, 3 rows has inserted. So this is how, because if whatever the order that you have, that order you should follow here. So if you follow the different order, the data will not be inserted. Like means, suppose it's the student name. If you specify the student name here and you insert the numerical number, it will be not there. Sometimes you will get the problems. Like whatever the order that you specified, you have to, whatever the type, that order and type of the data that you define, accordingly you have to insert, and give those values in the value statement in the insert class. So this way how you can insert the data by using the insert statement with the value. So it's not mandatory to define this. So without this also you can directly run it. But if you follow the order, see, so if you write n number of times, the data will be inserted. So it doesn't matter if it's a duplicate or but it will be the insert is only entering the data into the table. If you enter the duplicate data also, it will take it. Okay, so this is another way you can do that. Now that is about directly you are entering the value by manually and inserting the data. So now what I want is, I want to take the data from existing table and insert into the value table. Yes, in the last value statement you have to use a semicolon. The last, that is the last statement, then you have to use a semicolon. If you don't specify a semicolon, you will get the error message until the last statement. Okay, that is one thing. And similarly, you can also use existing table and you can insert the data, the table. Like how you are going to do that. So I'm going to use the same insert statement. You will just select what is the name, age, numerical. Here major is type, like type of the data is important. What is, ignore the values. Next one is name, right? Right, that's it. See, 19 rows inserted in the table. So majorly you need to think about the type of the value. So if it's a character type, you have to enter only character. If it's a numerical, you have to enter the only numerical, like that kind of thing. You need to consider majorly whenever you're inserting. It means it doesn't matter how many number of rows are there, those many number of will be created in this table. But the order is there. You should have the same order. It means order means type of the value, data type. So like this you can enter it. Yeah, the next statement is update. So you have entered, you have the data set. You already have some data set. In particular record, you want to update some value. Let's take simple example. In every year, the companies are increasing their salaries, right? Some percentage. So depending upon the percentage, you have to increase it. So depending upon percentage, you have to add some value. You have to update some value to the existing table. So in those cases, you have to identify this which particular record that you are going to update. So here we are updating the salary. Similarly, here we are updating some amount. So I'm updating this particular when age equal to 14. When student equal to 14, I want to update something. I want to add some value to this particular marks. Student. Now you are going to use set. What you are going to updating? What is this? Marks equal to 10. Then I'm updating 10 where equal to 16. So I'm updating only that particular marks. See one row updated. Go to the table. Look at the 16. So it's 82. So now if I run it again, the same value will be updated. So yeah, 82 will be to the 92. So 92. It means that, but so you need to identify which particular record. If you have multiple records, the multiple records will be updated. If you have something like that, so you need to identify which particular record you want to update it. Otherwise, it will update all the things. Suppose if I don't specify this where condition, all the records will be updated. See, 26 records, all the records 10, 20, it's updated. See, 90 to 100, it's all the values has been updated. So it means if you want to update specific records, you have to use a where. If you don't specify the where, all the records will be updated. Okay. These also same updates some salary information. Now deleting the rows. Similarly, deleting also same how you are using updating. Similarly, delete also. If you want to delete a particular record, you have to use a where condition. If you don't specify the where condition, it will delete all the rows. So delete from the table where promise this one, like delete student where marks is less than 100. You can say all the records will be deleted where marks is. So 18 records were deleted. Go back to see only this particular is more than 800. So that's the reason. So it means you have to depend what criteria. So before this is a delete is very powerful one. So before deleting that, you have to apply the select criteria. How many records you are going to deleting? Where less than or equal to 100, if you specify it, then check that if those records necessary and mandated, you have to delete it, or you want to modify the delete criteria. Okay, so this particular delete is very powerful. So you have to once you delete it, you cannot take back those records. You cannot roll back those records values that is deleted. So now altering the tables here. So now next one is alter. So when you say alter means you are going to modify the existing column. Like you want to modify the existing column or you want to modify the table. When you say alter means altering the table, altering the column. First thing is if you can in the alter table you can add, drop and delete, or you can add, drop or delete or modify the columns in a table. So you can use alter table statement. So how you can do that? Use the alter table, like how you use update statement, delete statement, insert statement. Similarly, we can use alter statement. So the following is SQL used to add the clause. So when you say add means you're going to add new column to the existing data set. It means creating the new column to the existing data set with a dummy. Now let's see. Alter table. So what is the name? Alter the table. So which particular table you are going to do the table. So then add total. So when you specify the total, you have to specify the type also. Now when you run it, this particular table will have additional column. See, total with the blank data. So this is about alter. Now if you want to drop, it means drop. Then it will be deleted. Drop that particular column has been defined. Either 3 columns modified. See, the table has been column has been dropped. Okay, add, drop and modify the columns. Modify the column means you can change the length to this drop. So whenever you say modify the column means it will only modify the column name, but it doesn't change the value. It only update the label or description or format information. These things only you can modify. You can modify the length, you can increase the length or decrease the length. You can add a label or drop it, remove the label or format information. These things you can do that. You cannot use a modify class to change a character column name to a number, vice versa. Change the column data type, drop the column and then add it again or use the data step. Change the column name, you cannot change these attributes. This is how you can use the alter statement. See here, it's modifying. So we are changing the format. Modify marks to format to dollar and to okay, dollar. It's modified. See, change the format, dollar format number. So this is how you can use a modify statement. So whenever you specify the modify, the values will not change. The appearance of the value will change it. It won't change the value like from 10 to 20, or you cannot modify that kind of thing. Only type. And if you want to drop the table, you can use the drop statement. It means completely dropping from the table. So use the drop table. What name table you want to drop it? Class. Just run it. So the table has been dropped. You can see completely deleted. You cannot, once you delete the table, you cannot take back the table. It's deleted, means deleted forever. It deleted. Yeah. So this is about the today's one. So tomorrow we are going to discussing about how you can use the queries. Then we'll go to the joins. So then you can start with the SAS macros. So tomorrow means the next week will start, and next week will be the classes will be completed next 3 days. Okay. Yeah. So the next week the sessions, all the classes will be completed. So you can take it. Yeah. Thank you. So we'll meet on next week. Bye.